So how does this relate? Well, about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, I was sitting outside the office, General Jim Clapper, who's now the Director of National Intelligence. But at the time I was working for him, I'm still working for him, but I was working for him at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. I was waiting for a meeting with Jim, and I picked up a copy of a publication, classified publication, but has some unclass stuff in it called Studies in Intelligence, which the agency puts out, CIA puts out every 6 months, just to articles of interest. So I'm waiting for Jim to get off the phone, and I'm thumbing through the thing, and I see this interesting article by Bill Nolte, William Nolte. William Nolte is very, very well known, very special guy working at CIA at the time. And he wrote an article about the revolution in intelligence analysis. And that's part of my job, so I was looking at that. It was fascinating. He started to talk about improvisation. And he talked about how musicians improvise. And basically that's just what I was showing you, is ways to improvise over a theme. And he said if we could teach our analysts, and our intelligence analysts, to improvise, we could then teach them how to use their gut feeling, how to use, call it intuition, whatever it is, and their own basic assumptions and understandings to help with the intelligence analysis program. I read this and I went crazy. So Jim hung up the phone and said, "Skunk," I said, "Stand by, Jim, I'll be right there. I got to make a phone call. I got to call over CIA." So I made the call, and I called a friend of mine over there and says, I got to meet this guy. I have to get together with this guy. I really like what he's talking about. So I went back in, had a conversation with Jim. He said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pick up the phone, I'll call him, I'll set you guys up for a lunch." So I went and had lunch with him, and it was a fascinating, fascinating lunch. We become good friends. As a matter of fact, Bill now teaches the intelligence course at the University of Maryland. But what was fascinating about it is he looked at the world around him and said, you know, this improvisational thing is pretty cool. Anybody read the book Blink? I'm sure, you know, the idea was that you can sort of trust your gut feelings. But how do you nurture that? Well, one of the guys that I still work for now at the Potomac Institute for Policy Studies, former Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Al Gray, when they see us coming, they don't know what to think. Al's a hardcore Marine, and I'm, you know, still a rock and roll guy, even though I've been with Los Angeles Police Department for 15 years. Doesn't look like it, though. So Al came up with an interesting idea. He said, you know what? I'm going to try something different. If you wanted to teach your Marine battalion commanders how to think in a high-pressure situation with very little information, with very high stakes, and with little or no time, what would you do? Well, Al talked to Colonel Walker and said, I want you to set something up for me. So Colonel Walker took 15 Marine battalion commanders and he put them in the New York Mercantile Exchange. Now people would say, well, that's stupid, and that'll never work. Well, 15 minutes into it, the Marines and the traders were forming work groups. They still communicate with each other. And what is the New York Mercantile Exchange? It is a place where decisions have to be made quickly, with high pressure, with very little time, and with very high stakes. So it seems to me, other than the color of the uniform, there really wasn't much difference. So the question is, okay, we seem to always be, and I understand the bureaucratic piece of this, and God knows the government is the worst at this stuff. But I understand that you have to think a certain way, and you're in a business, and you're in a corporation, and you're told to do this, and you have to do this. And I understand that up to a point. But sooner or later, this country is going to have to wake up to the fact that the thing that makes this country strong is improvisation. You know, computers, although they were sort of invented, maybe kind of, sort of, by companies like IBM, where they were really invented was people with soldering irons and geeky hats sitting in a garage somewhere. That was improvisation. Improvisation and innovation are almost synonymous. So, next question is, well, how do I learn to think like that? How does that work?